Hi, it's Mike here from AutoGuide, and well, I don't think it gets any better than this. Lamborghini invited me out to the brand's head office in Italy to experience being a Lamborghini customer for a day. And like a true Lamborghini customer, I couldn't pick just one car, so I chose two. Now, to see which one of these is better, or more importantly, I prefer, I'm gonna do nothing scientific. I'm just going to drive them and see which one I like being behind the wheel more, and of course, which one sounds better. And speaking of sound, let's have a quick sound off. We'll put the Temerario up against the Revuelto and see which one you think sounds better. Well, I'm still not sure which one I like better, so I guess I'll take on the hard task of having to drive both these cars in the surrounding Italian foothills here and see which one is the one that speaks to me a little bit more. So I'm starting things off in the Lamborghini Revuelto. I was told not to pronounce the V that much, so probably saying it wrong, whatever. Anyway, this is the big daddy of Lamborghini's cars right now. It is the one that has the V12, and as you can hear, it is singing behind my ear. It is now hooked up to a hybrid system, and combined, it only makes 1,000 horsepower. Actually, it makes more than 1,000 horsepower if you want to be technical. The 6.5 liter V12 is still naturally aspirated, which is awesome because it makes such fantastic noises. We need to start a movement, how people are about manual transmissions, for naturally aspirated V12s. Save the V12 or save the NA, I don't know. Well, I'll think of a better tagline some other time. One of the most fun things easily about this car is you get in a tunnel, put down the windows, drop out a bunch of gears. Like, how could you ever get enough of this? That noise. It's just ridiculous. Okay, I think I'll stop for now. Okay, now I'll stop. Being a Lamborghini, we're looking at all-wheel drive here, and this can go 0 to 60 in about 2.5 seconds, which is pretty darn quick. And it can also hit a top speed of, I believe, 217 miles per hour, which is pretty fast. There's cars that are quicker and there's cars that are faster, but there aren't many that are both. They've had us drive on some ridiculously narrow, twisty roads, and this is a big car and it's pretty wide, but it's just so manageable and there's just so much mechanical grip. If you ignore the specs, you wouldn't believe the power or weight that this thing is packing. Lamborghini proves something that's so true, and that is you don't need super stiff steering to have good sporty steering. A lot of companies overcompensate the weight of their steering to make it feel like it's sporty, but the steering in this car is pretty light. I mean, it's really easy to turn, but it's so quick and direct and communicative. It's not the best steering in the world, but this also has well over 1,000 horsepower, powering all four wheels and the hybrid system and blah, blah, blah. So you can't expect it to be the most mechanically linear, but it's still really good, and best of all, it's not stupid heavy. I've heard for years, for decades, about how driving a Lamborghini in Italy makes you like an instant celebrity. And you know what? I always thought it was exaggerated, but it is 1,000% true. Every small town I drive through here in Italy, everybody, doesn't matter age, gender, anything, they all stop to look and appreciate this vehicle, and they all want to hear that V12 roar. It's like part of their culture and their identity. It is just so cool. Why can't we in North America be more like this? When we have a nice hometown or even just a nice sporty vehicle, we should all stop to appreciate it and not look at it in disgust because it's making noise or it's too shiny. The Italians, they get it. How about the worst part of driving a Revuelto in the hills around Bologna? Traffic. There are a lot of trucks and you get stuck behind them, and it's just a slow procession of going slow and slower and then slow and slower yet.
A few moments later.
I'm in Italy, in the mountains, driving a Lamborghini that probably costs more than most of the houses I'm passing by. What is life? This is ridiculous and amazing, and about 1,000 other adjectives and emotions that I can't even explain. Alright, so I am in the all-new Lamborghini Temerario now, and it's, I guess, the new entry-level Lamborghini car, but that term isn't quite right. So first impressions, well, there's a lot more space in here. Even though this is the smaller car, Lamborghini's made a big deal about how they work to add more passenger space, and yeah, way more headroom. I can see fully out of the windshield, whereas the Revuelto, I'm looking half at windshield and half at roof. The side windows are bigger. When I get to an intersection, I'm not as strained trying to see where the heck oncoming car may be. It's just a more livable space, which is kind of ironic because this is the more hardcore track weapon. The Revuelto, super quick. It has tons of power and grip and all that. But this, you can tell they tried to save weight, and it feels like it. It drives a lot lighter, even though this is only 300 pounds, not even 300 pounds lighter. This is just over 3,700 pounds. It feels much lighter. The steering, just like I said in the other car, fantastic here in the Temerario. But there's manual controls in a lot of spots, especially with the seat. Everything on the seat's manual to adjust it. There's a power, tilt, and telescopic steering wheel, so they've kept some there. The touchscreen isn't as dependent to control all functions. In this one, I can actually open the front trunk by just pushing a button on the dash, not to go through the menu, which is huge. Now, these doors don't open scissor-like, which sort of follows the tradition of the previous V10 Lamborghinis, but that doesn't exist either anymore because behind me is a V8. And much like its bigger sibling, it too is a hybrid system. And even though it's only a 4-liter and it's missing 4 cylinders compared to the Revuelto, this makes over 900 horsepower, so almost the same amount. How? Well, the 4-liter V8 is turbocharged, and like I said, there's that hybrid system. And oh, did I mention it goes to 10,000 RPM for redline? Yes, 10,000 RPM. There aren't many hybrids, there aren't many turbos, and there definitely aren't many V8s that can do that. This is all 3, and it does it. And I can read your mind through your computer. You're sitting there thinking, so what does a turbocharged hybrid V8 sound like at 10,000 RPM? Well, guess what time it is? It's tunnel time! Obviously, it doesn't accelerate as fast as the Revuelto, but it feels way more violent. It really felt the whole car just wanted to pick itself up and go. Maybe we'll do it one more time. 3rd gear, 2nd gear. Oh man, that noise and that little turbo whoosh as you switch gears. Man, not as good as the Revuelto. That sounds otherworldly, but this still sounds really good. The engine noise when you're just driving and cruising isn't as pleasant in this as it is in the Revuelto. The Temerario's V8 almost sounds, it sounds so purposefully mechanical at lower RPM. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a high performance engine, and that's because it's literally right behind my shoulder, and yes, that's always the case with Lamborghinis, but I feel like there's a piece of tissue paper between me and the engine because I hear it on both sides and all sorts of sound. But man, when you open up the RPMs, does it sound glorious. Despite some of the switchgear being different, like I said, with the seat and some buttons, the interior is laid out almost the exact same, and it's probably a combination of it's a cost savings to use a lot of the same parts, but it also gives all Lamborghini owners that familiar feeling and that special feeling. And again, that's sort of what they're trying to do with these cars and this brand. And even though this is the quote-unquote baby Lamborghini, it's still unlike anything on the road, and I'm torn which one I like the looks of better. Not everyone's a fan of the Temerario in terms of looks. I like its sort of cut off front and rear end. It has a great proportion. Now, I was a big fan of the Sesta Elemento, so maybe that's why I like the design of this. It just looks short, wide, and purposeful, and I kind of like the exposed rear tires from the bumper. Not everyone does, but it just, again, makes it seem like every little detail is really thought out in terms of performance, weight, and aerodynamics. Okay, so after a minor incident that involved my camera falling off the car and breaking my mount, let's wrap this up before I break anything else. After driving the two cars, they're both fantastic and they're both very special. I think though the Temerario is more my jam because I've always liked just the more raw, nimble vehicle, and that's this. The Revuelto, it's a bit of a sledgehammer in terms of power, and it really does handle well, but it's this that I think I would take. So as I said in my video, I am leaning a little more towards the Temerario, but then I took the Revuelto out for one more drive, and that V12 is something I am going to be dreaming about for probably the next 10 to 20 years. It is amazing, and it is fully worth the price of admission, and trust me, there's a lot of price in this admission. This is almost half the price, and it's still such a fantastic car, and it has a V8 that goes to 10,000 RPM. Like, who's ever gonna complain about that? I also find it's a little more approachable at the limits, and again, I think I already mentioned a couple times, it's about half the price. But really, you can't go wrong with either of these machines, and I guess the most important thing is the modern Lamborghini supercars are still something special and still so much fun to drive.